listener production.
G'day, it's Rusty here, all set for part 2 of my feature episode with rally driver Emma Gilmore. If you've arrived here and are about to grab a seat at the table for a gripping chat around her comeback from a crash in Extreme E last year, but you haven't heard part 1, you are missing some key elements of the Emma Gilmore story. The family car business and the dealership she now runs, starting out with real horsepower, eventing an equestrian before the lure of our kind of horsepower and motorsport took over. The early rally learnings and the rise to become a round winner of the New Zealand Rally Championship and a title contender of that series too on more than one occasion, and how she struck a balance between being tentative and 11/10ths. Coming up, the road to recovery. I'm pleased Emma is back behind the wheel and loving it. We're on the start line. Here we go, part 2. You ultimately get to McLaren, you partner with the legendary Tanner Faust. I mean, that whole, there's podiums in there as well for you guys. But it was, as you detailed there, not just the uniqueness of the terrain. It was ultra competitive with some of the drivers that are in it too.
Yeah, lots of talented drivers. It became a lot more rallycross drivers. So the Hansen brothers, Timmy and Kevin, who are very dominant in world rallycross. Johan Kristoffersson, again, another super talented rallycross driver. It was a really, really competitive series. When you're in electric vehicles, there's no a short shift of a gear to get a different boost curve to get a bit more acceleration out of the corner. The cars are pretty much tapped out all the time, and it was hugely fun. Very much high pressure because you got such little drive time. We'd walk the tracks as our recce run, and you didn't really know how the cars were going to respond over different bumps or jumps, and then the course would deteriorate over the span of the weekend. So I walked with Tanner. So Tanner came in, like we started the season together, but I'd done the few events prior, and we're walking the course in Saudi Arabia, and everywhere we walked, Tanner was like, yeah, it's flat. Yep, it's flat. It's flat. Everything was flat. And I'm thinking, I don't know about this, but, maybe I'm just being a bit cautious, And anyway, I did my lap. I came over and handed the car over to Tanner, and off he went. And holy shit, it was really impressive because he did try to hold it flat everywhere, but it wasn't quite flat. And he just about rolled it, took out signboarding, ripped the door open of the car. And he came back in and he says, yeah, okay, so no, it wasn't all flat. So I think he had underestimated it a little bit. And at breakfast the next morning, because they have all like the communal eating spaces, and it was very much like a travelling circus. So you got to know all the teams quite well. And Loeb says to him, he says, yes, you had the confidence of a beginner. So, yeah. You didn't know what those cars were going to be like.
No. But I love the conversations you were having behind the scenes there, because I mean these are some absolutely top draw names in rally or rallycross and so on. But you got to experience them away from the limelight too, didn't you?
Oh, it was super cool. And like exactly like you say, like Carlos Sainz, he's just such a gentleman. I just have so much respect for him. What he has done, but what he continues to do in the Dakar, and he's just amazing. So to have been able to get to know him a little bit, definitely not saying that we're pen pals or anything, but just to have that experience, it was I've just got so many cool memories from the whole thing.
What do you think when you first walked through the doors of McLaren HQ in Woking?
I had so many pinch me moments. It's amazing. I mean, you walk through the doors there and there's beautiful bronze statue there of Bruce McLaren beside his first car. And I just felt immensely proud, being a New Zealander and getting to represent such an iconic brand. It was amazing going from being effectively, being amateur racing back here in New Zealand into a Formula One team where they have the ethos that if it's something that's going to give us an advantage, like, tell us, like, what do we need to win? Like, it wasn't about budget or people, or there's no constraints. It's like having that mindset of what do we need? What's going to give us that advantage? And amazing to, I worked under a really amazing manager in that first season, and he'd worked like with IndyCar teams and Le Mans when they won Le Mans back at the start, and just being around all of those people that are the best in their field, it was so inspiring.
Tell me about the art involved in success in Extreme E, because it's the culmination of lots of things. EV Power, you've got a shared driving responsibility, if you like. When you look back on the podiums that you had there against the kind of tough competition you outlined a minute ago, what is the key to to being a force in Extreme E?
Gosh, I think like sometimes it was just luck went your way, and
really?
It was. Yeah. Sometimes I say that I say that obviously you can't luck your way to the front, but it's like I think about the podiums we got, I think of Chile where it was a podium we didn't get. We crossed the line first, so we had the speed on the track, but we both had knocked down a flag, so we had more penalties than the gap we'd created. Yeah. So we sort of missed that. And I think a little bit of it is having a good draw so that you get a good start, because the cars are so evenly powered. As soon as you're not at the front, it's very difficult to overtake, especially as your visibility gets limited. But yeah, I think it was just doing everything well and having a little bit of luck as well.
Can we go, if you're comfortable, and I don't know how comfortable you are here, so you just share what you are at kind of ease with. So you go from that second podium at round 4 last year. Let's fast forward to round 7, the Island X Prix. You suffer a pretty decent concussion, fractured rib during practice. What are your recollections of what happened there?
It was. So we had a pre-event test on the Wednesday before the event, and Tanner and I, we did a lot of setup changes. We're both really confident and happy in the car, and we headed out to practice. So it was first lap of first practice that we were doing, and I'd had a pretty good run. Like, I was feeling really comfortable in the car, and I was just coming around to complete my first lap, and it was a section of the track that they hadn't wet down yet, so this is what I find out afterwards, but anyway, it was still quite slippery until it wasn't, but I wasn't aware of it, and I was already looking up coming through the apex of the corner, looking up at where we were heading, which was the jump over the start finish line, and then I was like, shit, the rear end of the car's still coming around on me. And so we were past, like, normally in a rally car that's never happening, like as in something's gone bad if the car's still rotating past the point of the apex in the corner. And I was like, shit. So it was 115 kilometers an hour when the car tipped in. So I was like, you have that moment where you think you're going to try and save it because you're a rally driver. And I was looking, well, shit, I can't go to that side of it. I can't spin up the track. Like, I was considering my options when the reality was I was along for the ride. Like, I'd already, the car was starting to tip, and then it just started to tip, and I assume I got knocked out or I blacked out, but the next moment I'm coming to and a destroyed car. It's back on its wheels, but the team are coming to help get me out of the car and stuff. And I had a bit of a sore knee. I bent the throttle pedal because I was still trying to save it as the car tipped in. And then so I got airlifted to, like, I was conscious from that point on. I'd had a bad concussion early on in my career, so I kept like picking up my memory. It was like, do I remember everything? You're trying to make sure you're not going to forget things. But from that point on, I then went to the hospital and got airlifted to the hospital and had a night stay in a Sardinian hospital, which wasn't the best experience. I tell you, if you ever end up in one of those hospitals, make sure you pack your own toilet paper and hand towels, because they're not included in the restrooms. But I had the cracked rib and the concussion, and And the poor old car was absolutely destroyed. It was totaled. So it was a weird crash because I just never saw it coming. Like the car, effectively, what had happened because of the change of the gradient of the surface, the car just bottomed its suspension with the high centre of gravity and the speed we were going, and it just started to roll. So it was, it's one of those things that it sort of doesn't make me want to rush to get back in it, because I don't know what I would have done differently to have stopped it happening. It wasn't because I sort of misread anything, or the car I just lost control of it. So not good.
Two parts to my next question. Physically, how did that impact you? And emotionally, how did that impact you? Because you said earlier in the pod there was a 6-month period, if you like, of recovery. So, well, I mean, were you tired? Did you have all your memory? You're questioning yourself, saying, can I remember this and that? Was that all solid?
It was. I was fortunate enough I was able to fly back home and get back home to New Zealand sort of on the Monday after the weekend. So it was really nice to be back home. And how my concussion was this time was the concentration and noise and fatigue. So never had headaches, never got dizziness this time, but any time I was in a noisy environment, I just couldn't cope. Like, it was really really irritating, having that background noise, and I was just tired. It just took a long time. Like, I was fortunate in that I didn't need to go back into work, that the team at work were able to keep the business going. But I was just focusing on my recovery, really, and just trying to get back up to health. But for those of us that have ever experienced a head injury, you think, shit, I'm doing better than I was. You think you're making good progress, and then you go on another 2 weeks and you're like, okay, maybe I wasn't as good as I was back then as I thought I was. So it's a long road, and it takes a long time to really feel fully well again.
Did you get some good assistance in all that, good guidance around, you and I, that's a little bit of a loaded question, because you and I worked together on the Super Sprint Motorsport New Zealand Championship, the broadcast last summer, and I know that, and I think this is not necessarily something that you needed to do, but maybe something that you had forced on yourself in the recovery, and that was, if you needed an afternoon nap on the Thursday or the Friday of race week, you would do that, wouldn't you? As you ensured that you were getting back to full fitness.
Yeah, I think I got really good support, and it was really noticeable in the time. Like I mentioned, I had a bad concussion early on in my career, and just now the knowledge around head injury is just so much more. The support I got from the rehab clinic was amazing, and just that knowledge that how much your brain is doing, even at a low level, all that background noise that your brain's trying to filter when it's tired and trying to repair, that's pretty challenging on it. So I had, because my neck was also pretty badly damaged in the crash, so I had to do rehab for my neck, rehab around my head. I worked with a Australian company called Neuroflex that have a virtual reality headset that really helps with brain rehab and getting your eye motion and all those kind of things back up to speed. So I had lots of different support, which was hugely helpful. And then just knowing when to back off and give yourself time to recover, because your brain is still healing, is so important.
Did you contemplate stopping? Did you go, and then on the flip side of that, this is happening in the midst of you getting one of the career best opportunities. You're with McLaren. You're getting to compete on the international stage. I mean, this is kind of dream stuff in many, many respects for you. What was the first response? Was it, I'm done, I'm going to hang up my helmet, or was it like, no way, I want to get back behind the wheel?
It was, for me, it was a difficult one, because I did feel like I got away I was very lucky with the crash I had. Okay. And I feel like I happy to walk away in terms of, do you roll the dice again to maybe not walk away next time. And I think that it was a challenging thing for me. It ended up not being a decision I had to make because my contract ended with McLaren anyway. So I didn't have to ultimately make that decision of whether I really wanted to keep driving the vehicle or not. But I definitely didn't know how I was going to feel when I got back in my rally car, if I still had that kind of, because I know how long the recovery's been and how hard it is on your body to put it through that. But maybe being a bit, I guess I was sitting in the shower one day and I was thinking, you know what, I lost a really good friend to cancer last year, school friend. And I thought, you know what, you're not guaranteed tomorrow anyway. You've got to enjoy what you're doing and go and live your life, because anything can happen. So, I think you've always got to be calculated about it. You've got to be smart about it. But ultimately, you've got to enjoy what you're doing. And thankfully, when I got back in the rally car, I was like, man, this car's cool, because it does what I want it to do. It turns, it stops, it's amazing. So, so the buzz and the thrill was still there.
Take our audience there. If memory serves, was it a rally sprint the very first time that you did some competitive, maybe you did some testing just to sort of for yourself quietly understand, but was it a rally sprint that was the first proper return?
I did go and play in a quarry first just to make sure that it was going to be okay. Yeah, and then back into a rally sprint. So it was great, and it was an awesome road down in Eastern Southern Car Club put on this great event down in Popotanoa, and it's one of the best roads in the country. So it was awesome being back in the car.
How'd you feel? After all of that?
Relief. Yeah, relief is the biggest thing, because that is the hardest thing when you're coming back from an injury like that. You're like, am I going to still want to do it? There's just so much of that internal voice, are you up to it? Have you lost it? All those things. So, it was relief. It was relief that, I've put myself through all of that, and, thanks to my body for getting me through that and being here to be able to, keep doing what I love.
Good on you. And I hope you only listen to what you wanted to do, because motorsport can be a brutal game in that often all the experts on the sidelines will sit there and go, well, won't be as good as before, won't be as committed as before, et cetera, et cetera. So I hope you didn't, if that was going on, I hope that didn't come on the radar and you were just able to enjoy it for what it was.
Yeah, I think I have it on my own. I think it's my own voice at times as well. Like, I do find it frustration this season, because I want to be going quicker than I am. But I also have to be that realistic that, well, I haven't had a lot of seat time lately, coming back from a big injury. It's keeping that expectations in check. So, I think the one thing I think people overlook, from the criticism from the sidelines, is they don't understand how big a task it was coming back from the injury, as in how challenging it was, and that it's still tiring for me at times, especially early on this season, the tiring from the recce and all those kind of things. But I mean, as everyone knows, it's easy to be critical from the sidelines, isn't it? It's the people that are in the arena with you that are the ones that you listen to.
Yeah, spend a moment walking in someone else's shoes. Unless you've done that, you really don't know. You're to be credited there. Thank you. I think that's one of the first times you've really shared and talked about that. So thank you for opening up on that, and I hope it's been a little bit cathartic in some ways. As we get to the finish of the pod here, a couple of things that we haven't canvassed. Firstly, back in, I want to say 2014, you got to do some rallycross, Hyundai Veloster. What the hell was that like? And did it, ironically for Extreme E, it wasn't as though you were going in completely green to this. You'd had some rallycross experience.
Yeah, amazing. Like, gosh, that was super cool cars. Like the power in those rallycross vehicles, just so amazing. And it was
wild,
so cool that Reese Millen gave me that opportunity. It was super cool. Something again that I'd love to go back and have a go at. And it's one of those things, I've been really fortunate to have these goes or opportunities in my motorsport, and largely because I've been a female. You get given these opportunities, but I never really grasped or had the I just wish I had the experience now to go back and do some of these things again, knowing what I know now to go back and do it. And it wasn't sort of till halfway through the season where I got a good spotter in my ear, which made a huge difference to my progress. And then, we got into the final in Las Vegas, which was super, super cool. But I mean,
Mega.
Closest thing to a video game I've ever done. You're jumping mid-air and you've got cars all around you, and it was insane. And then you're on the start line and all the cars go into their launch mode, and you've just got this deafening sound of all these supercars around you. It was just, super cool. Super, super cool.
Like Emma, the women who have appeared as guests on this podcast are all incredibly inspiring. Make sure you check out the two-parter with legendary F1 reporter Louise Goodman.
My other first was getting the first interview with Lewis Hamilton when he eventually won the World Championship. And, that was similar circumstances in that everybody was absolutely, it was teeing it down with rain and it was mayhem. So that was another get your elbows out and fight your way through scenario.
I really hope Rusty gets me on for a chat at some stage. More directions than any co-driver in history, and I've been in more cars than Clarkson. Still, I wait by the phone. Anyway, back to Emma Gilmore.
For a lot of people listening, the notion of going to Goodwood is on their bucket list, right? You have been to Goodwood. Give people a little sense of that, because you got to wear orange there, which is pretty cool. McLaren, I mean, that is, I mean, you're talking surreal there a moment ago. That is a little bit surreal, isn't it?
Insane. Like last year when I was there as part of their 60-year celebrations, and it was kind of like, how did I end up on this side of the tape? Like it was just, and amongst all these McLaren legends, and it was like, I feel like, it's just crazy. But how it came about was I said to my boss in the first season, I said, look, I really want to go to Goodwood. I just want to go. Like, I just wanted to go and spectate because it's such a cool, iconic event. And he says, yeah, we'll sort you some tickets. Yeah. And then a few days pass and he rings me back and he says, do you want to drive something at the Goodwood? And I was like, yeah. Thinking, what are they going to give me that I'll be okay to drive up the hill? And he just sort of casually drops in, we've got a F1 GTR that you can take up the hill. And I'm like, okay. And I get off the phone and quickly Google the F1 GTR. And it's like, at the time with, the prices, they were sort of like $11 million. I was like, whoa, expensive car to be driving. And then turn up at the event and like, this car is beautiful. Like they're just, V8, amazing sound, stunning car. And they said, right, this car, it's just been sold to America for £30 million. I'm like,
don't bend it.
Okay.
Don't bend it.
And I go and inspect the tyres and they're like plastic. And I'm like, and they said, they don't make those size tyres anymore. So they're about 30 years old as well. Oh, yeah. Anyway, it was amazing. Absolutely amazing motor vehicle. So that was super cool. So that was the first year that I went. And then last year I got to drive Denny Holmes' M8D, the Can-Am car, which was just unreal. Like you could feel the sound of that car. Like it was just the 8-litre V8.
Infectious.
It kind of did want to make your ears bleed, but in a good way. and you can just imagine, a field of them racing back in the 70s. Like just so cool. So cool.
You got to hang out last summer. Some would say it was a sentence rather than a great thing to do. But got to hang out with that mad Stephen McIver, myself, Andrew Waite, for some motor racing. Did you enjoy doing a bit of broadcasting? That was good, wasn't it?
I loved it. It was so cool. So cool. And, full respect to you guys, I got to learn so much, and there's so much more to it than you think from watching it, at home on the couch, and just, all the different sounds you've got going on in your ears and having to know all of the information. I think when I filled in for you one of the weekends, you were away and you have to talk through a race about people I didn't really know. Like it's a lot of talking to keep doing. So you guys do an amazing job. But I really, really enjoyed it. It was cool.
I hope we get to do a little bit more of that. To finish, you've been recognised here in New Zealand and even at a global level around sort of women in motorsport and how important that is. Of all of your kind of learnings along the way in your career, what's the sort of things that you pass on to that next generation? And we've got a bit of a groundswell, haven't we? We've got more women coming through in all facets or areas of the sport, which is terrific.
Oh, it's so cool to see, and it's been really noticeable over the 20 odd years that I've been involved with motorsport. How I sort of don't see it as a thing now, because we've got so many women doing very, very well in motorsport.
It's normalised. That's good. That's good. Yeah.
Which is super cool. And I think I often get asked about this topic and often speak about it. And I think the thing that can be forgotten about when we talk about the women and men is the fact that throughout my career it's largely been the men that have helped me to achieve, and it is the men that help get this equality there in motorsport, because it's the men that are a lot of them have daughters now that I might have been competing against back in the day, but they recognise that that supporting the women and helping them to compete and to be an equal is really important. And, I thank all of the men that have helped me in my journey, because I definitely couldn't have done what I've done without all of that male support.
Good on you. All right. What is left to be ticked? I mean, Japan, Rallycross, Extreme E, there's been some unbelievable things along the way. Is there a little something, be it a car that you'd like to drive or an event you would like to do? What is missing from the Emma Gilmore wish list?
I still would love to do Dakar. I think, I fell in love watching that event many, many, many years ago, and it's quite a different beast nowadays to what it was back then, but I still think that would be an amazing event, an amazing experience to tick off.
You've taken very kindly an hour out of business. If people are in Dunedin and they're looking for a car, where are they going? Quick, come on, give them a quick plug.
Gilmore Motor Suzuki, 874 Princess Street. Yep, opposite the Oval.
Excellent. Well done on everything you've done so far. We're talking not all that far out, in fact, from Daybreaker Rally, which is another. We did Southern Lights down south there in Invercargill in June. Are you off to Daybreaker, and you're excited about that? That's held around Palmerston North on the North Island. There are some very cool roads there.
Yeah, I can't wait. It was one of the events I missed out on doing last year because of my crash. So super excited to be getting there. The organisers behind that event, they also did the Southern Lights, and they put on a fantastic event. So yeah, if anyone's in the region, I think we've got a special stage on the Friday night at the Speedway track there, and then we have like a 4 a.m. start the next morning. So it's going to be a cool event.
Terrific. Thank you for talking to us today and for opening up on a subject I know that might have been a little on the tougher side for you, but we're grateful that you've shared that with the audience. Thank you, Emma.
Thank you.
Rusty's Garage is written and presented by me, Greg Rust. Series editor and producer is Thomas Dullard. Audio production by Link Kelly. If you've got a guest suggestion, get in touch with me via social media. The Garage, that's where a journey begins with a tank full of passion-fueled stories.